Want to get your photography business on PhotoBiz.com and build a professional website that's easy to manage and built for photographers? Pick a template created by our in-house expert designers. Customize it with your own text, images, colors. Show off to visitors by displaying your images and videos by creating gorgeous galleries. Set up a storefront or create private galleries with proofing to sell digital, prints, or download an entire gallery with the click of a button. Send 2,000 email marketing campaigns free each month. Add pop-ups and sticky promotions for catching leads and pushing deals. Fast, secure hosting and SEO tools ensure you'll rank high on search. A website shouldn't require you to be a designer. A website should just work. Go to PhotoBiz and create your website today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to PhotoBiz MasterClass. We're about to jump right into our SEO's Do's and Don'ts session. We have our experts, John K. and Mr. Ellington H. here today. So we want to welcome them and thank you for sharing all your guys' experience and knowledge with us. We'll have a questions and answer section at the end. So let's just jump right on in about the SEO's Do's and Don'ts. Okay guys? Say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello again, everybody. Thank you to everybody that's taking their time out of their day today to be with us. I know yesterday I did 2 sessions with about the PhotoBiz e-commerce and proofing. So thank you to anybody that was there yesterday as well. I'm John K. I've been with PhotoBiz for 13 years, and I've worked with photographers the entire time on their websites and SEO the whole time I've been here. I've got Ellington with me as well. Ellington, introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellington. This is actually my first year with PhotoBiz, but I have many years of experience with marketing and SEO help. I've been helping out companies optimize their digital content for their businesses.
Perfect. So we're going to go over SEO do's and don'ts today. So this is a really good do's and don'ts, some of the mistakes we see folks make, and some of the recommendations we have to really ensure that you're setting yourself up for success when it comes to your website, marketing yourself, and making sure that your site is search engine friendly. So first thing that we wanted to talk about is what is SEO. There's a lot of misconceptions and misnomers out there about what SEO is, what it does, but essentially SEO is called search engine optimization. It's how you optimize your website and how you make sure that users can find you when they're using services like Google and looking for a service provider. It's how you organize your website. It's what you do to your website to make sure that it caters to the target audience you're going after. That's it. It's not super secret. It's not overly technical. It's something where it's all about having a strong website and a strong message that clearly states who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so we're going to go straight into the do's and don'ts for SEO. First thing that you want to do is that you're going to want to make sure that you have quality content on your website. So one of the things that you don't want to do on your site is have content that isn't relative to your target audience. If you have a website that caters to wedding photography, you don't want to have a lot of pet photography on there because that isn't relevant content for the particular audience that you're going for. So some ways that you can make sure that the quality of your website is good and relevant to your particular audience is make sure that your website is clear about your business. Make sure that all of the information on there is consistent and relevant to what you do, who you are, where you're from, and who you service, as well as how to get in touch with you. This is very helpful in SEO because it shows Google and also the people that are coming to your site that you have relevant content. And this will definitely help improve rank because when Google crawls your site, they want to have see sites that are consistent and have a clear message.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to make it easy for people to get in touch with you. You know, not only you want your website to clearly say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I specialize in, these are the customers that I serve, But you also want to make it easy for people to get in touch with you when they find, they look at your work, they see your portfolio of images, they go, wow, I need to know more. How do they reach you? You want to make it so that your website clearly says, hey, you can call me at this phone number, or you can email me at this email address. You can fill out this form and send me a message through my website. If you have live chat, you can send me a message through this. So, making sure that the content of your site is good and it clearly speaks to your audience is also a big part of SEO, but you want to make it easy to get people. The thing is, when your site, if you have a site that doesn't do that for you, what happens is somebody looks you up on Google, they click on your site, they look at it for a second, the content's not good, it's not easy it's not organized, it's not easy to get in touch with you. People just hit back and go to the next site. It's absolutely no different than when any of us have done a Google search, and we've all done that Google search, and we hit that first link, and it looks like something that's going to give our computer a virus. It's like, whoa, this is terrible. Hit back, you can just go to the next site. It's absolutely no different when people are looking for a photographer. The other thing that's frustrating is that we've all done that, where we've gone to a website and we found exactly what we're looking for, but there's no way to get in touch with anybody. That's the same exact thing. You got to make sure that your site has organized content that clearly states who you are, what you do, and where you serve.
Yeah, I've talked about that recently, how many people I've run into hiding their contact page. It's kind of incredible, like people don't think about how people actually want to get touch base with them. And that's why I talked about the core pages. They want to learn about you, they want to learn about the business, the who, what, when, where, and why of it all. If I don't know where you're located at, it's going to make it very challenging for a customer to want to book your session, especially if you're coming up for search results for someone who is searching for a photographer and they're on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast. Now they're obligated to either try to choose you and figure out how to come to you to get photos, or they'll just abandon it and go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Correct. So you definitely want to have a clear message and who and where you cater to, because a lot of the times you might like Jeremy was mentioning. A lot of the times, if you have your site and your images look great, but you cater to Cleveland, if you don't specify that, somebody might find you in Utah, and so. Without having the clear information and how to contact you and have that touch point, it's really hard for people to want to use your services.
Absolutely. So on the next slide here, we dig a little bit deeper into this. So page content, and this is where we get more into some of the more, the more technical side of it, but also more the marketing piece of it. So, the thing is with your page content is you want to make sure that you have the right amount of content on page. So what does that mean? You don't want to stuff your site full of too many images and a bunch of text and copy that isn't written for someone to actually read it. You want to avoid things. Some of the old tactics that people used to do is just stuff the page full of a bunch of words that aren't really meant for anybody to sit and read it, and that doesn't work anymore. Google looks at that as spam, and they'll flag your site. They'll take you out of the rank, and they'll put another site over yours if you're not providing good on-page content for it. So, what do you want to do with that? Well, you want to make sure that your website pages say something. You want to have some copy on every page. Give people context. Let them know details about about your services, what you're showing off. That really goes a long way. You want to put call to actions on your site. Things that say, hey, when you get to this page, this is what I want you to do. This is where I want you to go. This is how I want you to reach out to me. That stuff really helps out, because what it does is it engages users. If you come to a site that's just a bunch of pictures, people look at it and they go, I don't know what to do next. But if you have a site on there that showcases your signature work and it makes you pop off the page and it makes you really stand out and it just has that wow factor, people look at it and they go, wow, this is amazing work. Well, then there's a form to get in touch with you right below it. And we've talked about this in other webinars in the past. I know Jeremy hit on this a bunch. You want to make sure that calls to actions are on every page. That's how you generate leads through your website. If you're on page 1, but you're not getting any leads out of your site, well, then it's not doing anything for you. If you have a page on your site that's not generating leads or booking leads or closing sales for you, it's not helping you. And so, what else do we look at? Well, the title on your page, H1 tag. That's going to tell that's not going to just be the big title at the top of the page, but it's also going to tell Google when it crawls your site, this is what this page is about. That's the topic that's what the H1 tag does for you. It's a good question, Charles. The H1 tag, it's a title tag. It says exactly what the title, it tells you exactly what the topic of the page is about. It's also an indicator to Google's crawler that, hey, this is what this page is talking about as far as the content. And so, that's what you want to use. Use the H1 tag one time. And it's one that you put in the page and it talks about what the page is about. And then, your keywords. Gone are the days where you come up with a bunch of keywords and you stick it into the meta keyword section and that'll get you on page 1. Keywords don't affect rank. It's not going to get you on page 1 or page 1 million in terms of meta keywords or keyword statements. Google uses those to categorize your website, but everything that Google does as far as where your page is going to rank, it's all based on content and how you use your keywords. So, like it says here, we want to use your keywords 1 to 2 times organically, and organically means that you're writing your content in order for people to actually read it and learn something or glean something from it. And so, using them too many times or hiding them in the page or just listing them out in a long list, like it says here, Google's going to use that as spam and look at it as spam. So it's going to be something that you want to avoid. You want to use them the right way. And so we mentioned previously the name, address, phone number stuff, and the next page we're going to look into that a little bit closer as well.
Yeah. So really quick, Monica, she asks, how can you maximize your H1 tag? You definitely, as really a great way to use that is actually putting in your specific location. You can do that. Maybe you can put a good H1 tag is for maybe a maternity photographer. You can say beautiful maternity photography offered in California. Or serving California. You do want to optimize that. You want to make sure that you have all the information in there that's relevant to that page and to your service, because that's what Google reads first is the H1 tag. We see a lot of photographers that have gallery pages with just images, and Google can't read anything off the images. So a good way to get indexed and help with rank is definitely adding that H1 tag.
Yeah, and that's something I've talked about with making your pages more targeted that way anyway, because every page can be generally just a landing page itself. So someone might land directly on that page for your newborn sessions, especially if you do different types of photography, when they just search for newborns in that location, and then yours pops up before even the home page. So it just gives an opportunity to have that there, and if you already have things kind of set up with H1 tags, some organic speech about it, and then even having a form on the bottom, you've made that page targeted as a landing page now. So just think about that when you're putting these pages together. And I did notice something the other day with keyword stuffing when I was looking at some websites. I saw them where they had a white website, and then at the very bottom there was this huge blank space, and then I highlighted the area. They had white text. And can you talk about how don't want to do that? That's just generally bad in general, not just for Google but for user experience.
Yeah, that must have been probably a pretty dated website too, because that's an old tactic that that people used to use because it used to be effective, and now that is immediately just viewed as spam. When Google crawls that, they flag that as spam, and it's going to hurt your site. It's going to make your site not rank well. It's going to really, and it doesn't do anything to benefit you at all. I mean, even if someone sees that on their site. If a user comes to your site and they're a less advanced user, you see that and think the site's broken. So it's something where it doesn't benefit you at all to do that. Those old tactics don't work at all. So, yeah. So and just to kind of to build on the H1 stuff, if you're a PhotoBiz client looking to add some H1 tags to your PhotoBiz 8 site, you can find those in the in any of the text editors that there's a heading 1 tag that you can use. You can add that into any page. I definitely don't recommend using that more than one time on a single page because it's gonna confuse Google. It doesn't necessarily look that great either. So you want to use those one time per page.
All right, next we're going to talk about your name address. We're going to talk about where you're located and how you can show this to your clients and your viewers that you want to reach out to. So your name, address, and your phone number is very important. This is how they're going to get in contact with you. This is how they're going to know where your services are offered and how to reach you. So one thing you don't want to do is have absolutely no contact information on your website. It's really important to have a touch point with your clients or with whoever is viewing your site on your website. A lot of the times people have beautiful images on their photography website, but absolutely no contact page or a hidden contact page that they send out to their clients. You want to make sure that when you're found on organic search, when somebody finds you on Google, that they have a touch point with you that they can reach out to you. So you want to make sure that you have the best contact information on your website. If you've moved from Cleveland to Florida, you want to make sure that your website has your correct location and how to reach you, the correct name of your company, and the phone number that you're currently using. You want to make sure that this is consistent cross-platform. So this is on your website as well as on your Google My Business account, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere that they see your company. You want to make sure that there's consistent way to contact you and where you are. This will definitely help people get in touch with you. So you want to make it easy for them to reach you as possible.
Yeah, and to build on that too, name, address, phone number, that's NAP consistency. So that's a ranking factor with Google. And so that's why it's important that you make sure that if you're doing marketing and other platforms outside your website, if you're doing social media marketing, if you're sending out landing pages, if you have a Google My Business profile, if you're using any other sort of business listings, make sure that your contact information is the same everywhere. Make sure that your business location, if you have it posted, is the same everywhere. Make sure your business name is the same everywhere. As Google crawls your profile online, they look at a bunch of different things. They look at your website, but they also look at your business listings. They look at your Facebook page, not necessarily your Facebook posts, but your Facebook page. And when it compares your name, your address, your phone number, if it's the same, it shows that you're a business. It shows that you're professional. Take PhotoBiz, for example. If you Google us and try to find our phone number is the same everywhere, 866-463-7620. It's been the same phone number. We've been around for over 15 years. We don't have any other phone number. That's our phone number. We have it on our website. We have it on our Facebook page. We have it on our Google listing. Anywhere else that you find about PhotoBiz, it's very easy to get in touch with us. That's a big factor with Google. Same thing with our address, 516 West Friendly Avenue, Greensboro, North Carolina. We have that address posted everywhere. It's on our business profiles. It's on our website. It's everywhere. It's a huge ranking factor when Google looks at these different things that, hey, this company versus this other company that doesn't have any contact information has more credible information, shows that you mean business, that you're professional. It pushes you. It pushes your site up ahead of your competitors when you have that type of information that's out there. So it benefits you twofold to have this information consistent across the board. One, it makes people able to find you and get in touch with you, but it also helps you out with Google because it's going to show, hey, this photographer is a real person. It's not someone that just picked up a camera yesterday and decided to start taking pictures.
And next, we'll be going over to the next slide, and we're going to be talking about metadata. So we're getting a little more technical into your SEO optimization. So the metadata is the things that you put into your site directly for Google to read and other sites to read when they're crawling your site. So one things you don't want to do is you don't want to have a website that's stuffed with every photography term you know of. You want to make sure, as we've been talking about the whole time, you want to make sure that you're not you don't have too much information. You want to have all the relevant information for your company and who you serve and what you do. So some things that you can do is you can research keywords that are consistent to your business using services like Moz. So you're going to want to look up things that you think people might might use when they're searching for your business. So, for example, if you have a newborn, if you're a newborn photographer, maybe go and use services like Moz to search those keywords and see what's relevant and what people are actually searching for when they're looking for that particular type of service. You want to keep things short and sweet. When you're putting in metadata, you don't want to put in a lot of text. You don't want to put in too much information. You want it to be simple so that when people come in or Google crawls your site, that they know exactly what it is and think they can get the content to the particular target audience that you're looking for. It tells Google exactly what you do, and then it's going to rank you higher if you have relevant information.
Yeah, absolutely. And to really hit on the do part of this, definitely do the right kind of research for the metadata that you're putting into your website. Every page in your site should have a title, should have a description, and it should have a set of keywords in there. But you definitely don't want to stuff it full of everything you can think of. And Moz.com is one service. That's what we use internally at PhotoBiz for all of our SEO services as far as keyword research goes, because it will tell you what the actual volume of people that are searching that term is and how relevant it is to your business. But it'll also give you recommendations for other keywords, and you can really make an informed data-driven decision on that when you're looking at, hey, this is how many people search this a month versus something that you may think people do, and then it turns out nobody actually looks it up. Another piece of that, too, is that, again, metadata, the keywords themselves don't really put you on page 1 or 1 million. It's something that it just impacts on how Google categorizes your website. Everything on the front side of your site is what pushes your site up in rank.
And that's good to know, because I've seen a lot lately where people are, and you've probably seen this as well, they'll say, hey, I shoot in Austin, Texas, but then they name every single city and town around them, and thinking that's a good way to keep their optimization going. But I actually see that as a negative effect. Is that not true? Because now it starts to look more like a directory board versus actually an organic way to talk about where you're located. And I always tell people shooting in surrounding areas of Austin, Texas.
Right. Well, I always, with that type of thing, when you look at and we'll get into some of the tracking and the right way to look at the information to see where your traffic is coming from in the presentation. But one of the things that I'm sure people have noticed more and more, not just for their own business, but in terms of looking things up on search engines, is that Google has begun, or it does now, really, I should say, present things that are close to you geographically. So when you look at your reporting in terms of traffic analysis of how your website's doing, more and more you'll see that people find your site by saying photographers around me or business around me. And it's because Google's trying to put you with the most credible business that's the closest to you. That's what the search engines have been doing. That's the direction that they're going in, and that's what they try to direct people to. So when it comes to marketing your site, and we'll get into some of that in here too, your metadata, you want to focus, make sure that what you put into your site, or what you put into your page, I should say, caters to the content of that page specifically. So if you have something that's talking about services you offer in Austin, Texas, make sure that everything in your metadata for that references that same service area.
All right, so we're going to go over to the next slide, and we're going to talk about your traffic monitoring. So you definitely want to monitor the traffic. You want to see how many people are coming to your page, who's coming to your page, and where they're coming from. And so there's tools out there that you can use to actually see who's coming on your site and what search terms they're using as well. So one thing you don't want to do when you're monitoring your traffic is you don't want to just do Google search of your name. A lot of the times, mostly all the time, nobody's searching for John Doe photography. They're gonna, like we said before, they're gonna look for photographers near me, newborn photographers, wedding photographers. So when you're monitoring or when you're going on Google and you maybe want to check where you rank on a certain page, you want to make sure that you're not looking up just your company name. You want to do what you think people out there are searching for. So a big helpful way to do that is to use the Google services tools that they have out there. The big ones is Google Analytics as well as Google Search Console. These are some of the tools that we use internally for our for our SEO services for our clients. Both of these services are with Google, and they're actually free to use. Only thing you have to do is sign up, and you're able to actually it monitors where you rank. It gives you a lot of different tools where viewers are coming from, depending on geographically, and where how you are getting traffic through organic search or through social media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to build on that too with Ellington, Google Analytics and Google Search Console come straight from the source, and they're going to show you the analytics side of things are going to show you more how people interact with your site, and Search Console is going to show you how people are finding you. And what's really nice is they both integrate right into your PhotoBiz website. The sitemap that is generated with your PhotoBiz site, as well as the blog feed, can be submitted directly to Google's crawler via Search Console. And so with that, once you've got your site set up, if you're not already using these, definitely get them set up. All it requires is a Google account, whether that's a Gmail, G Suite. Even if you have a different email address, you can register it as a Google account. It doesn't cost you anything to set these up, and they integrate right into it. And the data that you get out of this is really helpful because it's going to show you specifically, these are the key terms that people are using to find you. These are the pages that people are going to. And this is how long people are staying on your site. It really makes it a way to see exactly how your site's performing. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to photographers about their website and about search, and they tell me, well, I can't find myself when I look myself up on Google. And that's fine and well, but that means that what that tells me as somebody that does search engine optimization is that you're not looking at how your site's performing overall. If you're just Googling yourself, that's not giving you any real data whatsoever because you're not your customer. So, when you start using real traffic analysis tools like Analytics or Search Console, this gives you information that says, hey, this is what I need to do to my site to provide content that people are actually looking for. And also, how can I improve my page so that, hey, not only are people getting to my site, they're interacting with it, but it's also generating me leads. And so definitely, again, I can't put enough emphasis on it. If you're not already using, Search Console and Analytics, get it set up. And I mean, you can even set it up so that it emails you out once a month, where it'll just give you a rundown of how people are finding you, and it's a really helpful tool. So let's take a look at one of the more fun topics to talk about instead of all the technical stuff, and that's blogging. So I know everybody says I don't have time to blog, I don't want to blog, I'm not a writer, and everything else. I just don't have time to keep up with the blog. Blogging is important to SEO, but you have to do it the right way. So what you don't want to do is blog once a year, just leave it alone and never blog again. If you have a blog that hasn't been updated in more than 6 months, it's hurting you. And what does that mean? If someone comes to your website and they click on your blog and you haven't updated it since last summer, they don't know if you're still in business. It hurts you as much as having an effective blog on your site. And I understand, everybody kind of has, everybody has a different level of comfort in terms of talking about what they do, but blogging, don't think of it as a burden. It's pretty easy to do when you do it the right way. You don't have to write a novel, and you don't have to put in a million pictures, but you want to talk about, what you do, who you serve, and what you've been up to. So, let's take a look at some of the do's of blogging. And we've got some really great tools out there. There's a really, really good blogging for SEO guide that we have on the PhotoBiz blog. I will see if I can get Jeremy to share the link. But so let's take a look at what you want to do. And this all kind of falls in line with that same guide that we've got. So, you want to use your blog to talk about locations and areas that you serve and shoot. What do you take pictures of? This is really going to go a long way in helping build your business up. So, when you blog and you talk about specific locations, if there's a prominent venue that you shoot at a lot in your city, if there's a park, if there's a place that you take a ton of pictures, talk about it, because what's going to happen is when you put that on your blog, you can notify your customers, hey, you're my featured client this month. I'm gonna put you on my blog, and I'm gonna share it out to you via email or Facebook or whatever else. First thing you're gonna do is share that with all their family and friends. And so when you put that out there, that's gonna pull in more traffic. Now, what does that do for Google? Google crawls that page in your blog and sees all this traffic on it. Guess what? It's gonna start pushing it up. If you're talking about XYZ Park in your city that you took this engagement session at, when people start Googling engagement sessions about that particular park, your blog article is going to come up there. It's really that simple. You want to just make sure that you're putting out targeted content like that. So how do you write an effective blog, and how often do you do it? 2 to 4 times a month. That's it. Once a week, basically. That's going to make sure that you consistently have new content on the blog. A good place to kind of reference that is the PhotoBiz blog. If you kind of want to see the time frame on it, go to blog.photobiz.com. There's only a few of us that contribute to the blog. There's 3 or 4 of us that really write the meat and potatoes for that. And you'll see we update it 1 to 2 times a week. And so it's the same strategy that you want to follow when you're running your own blog. So, what does that blog post look like? Well, 1 to 2 paragraphs. Doesn't need to be super long. You just want to write a little blurb about the client, about where you shot, and how the session went. Talk about it just a little bit. You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to write a novel. You put in a few of the signature images just to showcase the session and how special it was. Because the other side of that too is when you start putting in more than 10 to 15 pictures, no one's going to look at that besides the photographer or besides the client. And so, if you put in the top, 10 to 15 photos from that session, it's going to look great. It's really going to showcase it, and it's going to, it's going to be something that people engage with. It really has that wow factor. But what else do you want to include in there? Include how to get in touch with you. If somebody's interested in a session, put that in, put a way to get in touch with you, whether that's a button that links back to your contact form, whether that's a button that calls you, whether that's a button that opens up an email and emails you. Make sure you put in a way to get in touch with you in that blog. So that does a couple different things. Number 1, it's going to engage with people. It's going to pull people in. They're going to look at your work. Number 2, it's going to include, prominent locations that you shoot at or places you take a lot of photos at. And that's going to help you with Google. Number 3, it's going to generate leads for you. Again, your focus on SEO shouldn't just be, hey, I'm on page 1. You want it to be, I'm on page 1 and I'm generating leads. And so if you make it easy for people to get in touch with you, again, it's going to make it, hey, I looked at this photographer does these amazing photos. I'm getting married in the spring, so how about I need to call her and find out. I need to call him and find out. That is exactly what you want to do when it comes to blogging for SEO. Make it so that the content speaks to the audience you're going after and includes the places you want to shoot. And as you build up that traffic on there and you get eyes on those articles, that's going to pull people in. That's going to push people up. Another good example of a blog article that you can write, one that I see that's really popular, is tips on your sessions. So if you do family portraits, include the 5 recommendations you have for having a successful family portrait session. Talk about upcoming specials that you're doing. If you have any mini sessions coming up, promote those on your blog. Things like that. When you put these on your blog, it gets way more traffic than you really anticipate, but it also gives you content that you can market out to people as well. So it helps with organic search with Google, and it gives you a bunch of good content that you can showcase on your different platforms to pull back traffic into your site. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in the next part as well.
Yeah, so like John was saying, it's really important to not only blog consistently, but share it consistently as well. You're going to want to make sure that you a quick cheat code pro tip is to share your blog post on your Google My Business account. That actually helps go directly to the source. You can actually post blog posts directly and content, sales and promotions directly to your Google My Business account. So this shows Google directly that you have fresh content, and it's gonna show up on Google search, and it's also gonna help them push people to your site. So you want to share it on your Google My Business account, as well as Facebook and Pinterest. Pinterest is actually a very important platform, especially for photographers. It has a great turnover rate of traffic and as well as sales. So a great way to use Pinterest is to be able to put relevant content directly on your Pinterest account. So some things that you don't want to do with that is focus on content, focus on people outside of your website, or things that are not relevant to your website. Maybe other pins that you've seen on other pages that you like. Some things that you want to do is focus on creating original pins and original content directly on there. Pinterest is actually going to push those pins up higher than something that you shared maybe from some of your favorite photographers. They want to see fresh content from you and original content. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're putting your content directly on your page. Make sure that you link back to that particular page or blog article that particular pin relates to. A lot of the times people, when they create pins, they may just link back to their homepage. It's a lot easier if you have a family portrait pin that's talking about your family photography sessions. You're going to want to go maybe directly to your family photography session pricing page, or maybe your family photography gallery. So this is people are going exactly to where they want to go and the content that's relevant to them. You can look at our Pinterest page. We announce a lot of different things on there. We talk about our new templates, all of our new updates. And then we link it back to the blog article or the page that it directly relates to on our platforms. And we have a blog post directly related to how to best use your Pinterest page.
Yeah, and just to kind of explain the thought behind why to use this, pins and images that you create for Pinterest tend to drive in a lot of traffic to your website from Google. And so whenever we, for example, like Ellington mentioned with ours, whenever we put out something new, we put a pin out with it with a graphic attached to it that links back to that article. And the thought behind that is that these pull in just as much traffic to our website organically from Google search than it does versus a Facebook post. Google tends to love images from Pinterest, that when you see those in that Google search, it'll pull in so much traffic for you. I've seen clients that have used a pin on Pinterest over a year ago, and it's still the number one referral of traffic back to their website. So the life cycle on these original uploaded pins is so much higher than a Facebook post. It's something where once you post to Facebook and you share it out there, especially if it's a family portrait session, 2 weeks from now that thing is buried. It's gone. No one's gonna see it. It's history. The other side of that is when you have pins out there that are effective, these tend to drive in traffic for much, much longer lifespan. So that's the thought behind marketing and pushing people into your content, because this is also something that, as these continue to pull traffic into your website, it pushes people into those pages that you're trying to build up an organic rank. And that's what Google likes. Google likes to see traffic on your site. They like to see eyes on your web pages. And that's exactly what marketing your blog articles and marketing your different pages via Pinterest will do for you. It'll continue to pull in that relevant traffic and pull in eyes from search engines as time goes by.
Yeah, I think it's also important. A lot of the times we see photographers use their Pinterest page and only put in just images. It's very helpful, like you saw on our Pinterest account. we had some infographics as well as some descriptors in the images that we uploaded. It's really easy to just create a short infographic or maybe even a 5 tips of for a newborn session, and just put those five tips up there, and then create a blog post directly related to it and link it to the site. That's really going to help in your Google rank that post higher.
So I think we now have the opportunity to start taking some questions and seeing what people have to say, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and go through that. Start at the top. Okay, so Charles had a question. What is an H1 tag again? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's your header 1 tag. That's going to be the title tag that you want to use on your page to just let Google know exactly what the content of that page is about, and then on the other side of it, visually, it's going to be something. It's going to be the header on the site. It's going to be what stands out to people. So that's what the H1 tag is.
And then Monica had a follow-up. How can you maximize your H1 tag? Should you add your services locations into that title to optimize the SEO?
Absolutely. And hey, Monica, this is John K from PhotoBiz. So this is an old client of mine. I've worked with Monica just about as long as I've been with PhotoBiz. So it's really nice to see you in the chat. Yes, so your H1 tag, you want to put it towards the top of the page. You definitely want to include, your service location in the title. But again, remember that you want to have that balance of this title. It tells you what you're looking at, but it also reads for someone to actually look at it. And so, the H1 tag, you want to put in there that, your location, but, make sure that it does read, that it's user friendly. And so it makes sense when people read it. It doesn't look like it's written for robots, for lack of a better term.
Can you use these keywords in a blog?
Yeah, you can definitely use keywords inside of a blog. A couple ways that you can do that. One is definitely just incorporating the terms that you think people would search directly into the copy of the blog post. So you want to write about if it's maternity photography, if it's a particular session. You want to talk about how well the session went, the location that it was at, and then talk about your services and what you were doing there. So just the keywords, the maternity shoot, photo shoot, all those things you want to incorporate directly into the blog post. And then you can also add tags to your blog post. So if it's food photography, then you want to maybe say food, wedding. If it's a wedding reception, put these different tags on there, and this indexes for Google and people searching for it as well.
Natalie had a question. Does PhotoBiz offer a do-it-for-me for SEO?
Yes, that would be the SEO Go service. You can check that out at seogo.photobiz.com.
Yeah, and that's a really great thing, because that right there will team you up with our SEO experts. They'll go through and basically set up your and optimize your pages. And then you can also go beyond that and have monthly reporting and analytical data where they kind of create a game plan for you, so you guys are constantly knowing, hey, what should I improve? Hey, this is working well. How do we keep this up? So it's a really, really amazing service that we provide for our PhotoBiz clients. Next question we have. Are the H1 tags placed on the SEO page, I guess the back end, or on the visible side of the website builder?
It's both. The H1 tag will appear as the title in your page on the front end for your visitors to your site, and then when Google crawls the code of your site, it'll appear in the source code for Google's index as well. So it appears in both places. But for the visual part, for the people that come to your website, it's going to be the large title that they see that stands out on the page.
Another question, does it matter how you format the H1 tag, like location listed first versus last?
Do whatever sounds best when it comes to writing your content. So when you look at the page, what's visually appealing to you. The other side is you can use your Google Search Console to see, what people are using to find you. That's the other side of it too. The big thing is you don't want to write your tags, or you don't want to write any content on the front of the site so that it looks like you're writing it for a robot. Make it so that it's consumable. Make it so that it's easy to approach, and that it includes the area that you serve. That's going to be much more effective versus worrying about if you put it first or last.
Sherry has a question. Is the city and state enough? I work from home and I don't want to post my personal address everywhere.
Oh, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. When we use the term name, address, phone number, that's an industry thing. So name, address, phone number is considered NAP consistency. But if you serve people at their location, or if it's something where you don't have a physical location for your studio, it's totally fine to have your city and state. Or city and province if you're in Canada. You've got control over that. The big thing is just you want to be clear in what area you serve if you're not having people come into the studio.
Brenda asks, can you give an example of what we could write? This is very intimidating.
Yeah, so things that you can write about is a particular session that you may have. So you can just talk about for example, if you have a maternity session, talk about your experience with the mother and father, with the baby as well. If it's a newborn session, these are just things, just the things that you do. And up here we have an example of the content and just how you can format it. You can also, like we've said before, quick tips about a session. If you have a family session, you can write a blog post about what to bring to how to prepare for my family session, and just a quick 5 tips, one or two paragraphs with just some images of a family session. These are some things that you can write about.
What are some things they might want to do if it's like for pages beyond just a blog?
On that, it's just you really want to be clear in what you do. So you want to make sure your personality shines through your site. And there's also we have some other really good guides on that for not just blogging. We have how to write an About Me page effectively for search, how to talk about sessions. There's a lot of information we have on the blog out there and formats to follow. The other side of that too is you can always call us if you need help with some of this stuff. If you have questions about it. Give our web consultants a call. We're here. We're here to help out for anybody that's a PhotoBiz client, and we'll guide you through that process. If you got some pages you want us to just kind of take a look at and give our recommendations on, that's no problem at all.
Yeah, and definitely, like, to reiterate something that John said earlier, is you definitely want to write like you're talking to someone and not writing like for a robot. So you want to make sure that it's clear and consistent, something that you would read and be able to understand.
Yeah, I've talked about that too throughout the class. You want to make sure that you're writing your content almost like if you're writing, if you're reading a book. You don't want to make it sound like the yellow pages when it comes to actually your website. You want to make it organic. You want to make it fresh, because at the end of the day, Google wants to learn to be more human, which is scary, but it wants to be able to read that stuff more organically so it can understand, and then if it likes what you read and sees that people are liking what you read, it helps with your rankings. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can go in, and a lot of times what I recommend for that too is make sure that don't overthink it. Don't overthink SEO. Don't overthink the content of your website. Think about your website as this. Your website is what sells for you when you're not there to sell for yourself. And so when you're putting together the content of your pages, think about the same way. If you talk to, I can't even begin to think about how many photographers I talked to that said, hey, if I could just get the phone to ring, I can close the sale. And so that same exact stuff that you say to your clients when you're talking to them, it's the same stuff, that same message that should come through your website. That is going to be so much more effective for you, because you want your website to not only rank high with search, but you also want it to actually generate you leads for your business. And so, that's where content on the site really comes through. And that's what we say: make it for human, make it consumable, but make sure it's still your message and how you talk about yourself and your business.
Yeah, and we to go back to but Brenda was talking about it being intimidating. We definitely don't want you guys to think of SEO as an intimidating thing to do. It's actually making your site as simple as you possibly can for Google and your viewers to read. So it's not something that's very hard. It's just doing the steps the right way for people to be able to know what you do and what your services are.
Yeah, what do they say about 350 words or 250 words needed for pages at most?
That's really about it. The other side of it too is you don't want to frustrate people. So we've all had that experience where we open up a recipe, and you got to read the whole backstory on this recipe and how it was, your grandma's favorite and everything else. I mean, you could do that if you want to, but at the same time, people are not gonna read it. They're gonna skip right over it. So don't do that. Make it so that it's short. Your message is concise. It shows your images, and here's how you get in touch with me. That's what you want to go with.
Yeah, leave that to the about page and other information pages like that. Leonard asked a question: is using keywords in a blog attached to your website a good idea, or should they be placed in the title placed in the text under titles and descriptions?
Well, it's two different things. So your meta keywords, again, that's something that Google has said for years that they don't use as a ranking factor. They just use it to categorize your website. Keywords in terms of what you put into the blog post, well, think of your keywords as this is what I want to rank for, so this is what I need to talk about. And so if you have a location that you're trying to target with an article on your blog about a session that you've done, put it in. You want to have it in your copy, once or twice, because you want it to read organically. You want people to know what you're talking about. But as far as like stuffing it in there a bunch of times, no, you don't want to put it in there, a whole bunch of times. 1 to 2 times is typically what we recommend for a keyword within a blog article on the front end. In the back end for your keyword statements, 1 time's all you really need to do.
Are there any promotions right now for SEO service? I just finished the Jumpstart service.
Yeah, if you go on to masterclass.photobiz.com, there's a promotion section there, and then I'll have either Jeffrey or Elijah. I'll pull your account and see who worked with you on the Jumpstart. We've got a deal going for I know for $100 off on SEO Go for Jumpstart people that completed it.
Monica asked, can you share some PhotoBiz websites that are SEO optimized for inspiration? This
Yeah.
might be a deeper question, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. I will pull a couple that are the same stuff that you shoot, Monica, and I'll email those over to you. That's no problem.
Can you update old blog articles with new dates without having to dump them completely because they're old?
That's a tricky one. So when it comes to old content, Google's looking for fresh new content. So usually what I recommend, if you're gonna repurpose an old blog, you can take it and freshen it up, but you want to make sure that it's relevant to what you're doing. So in the sense of, hey, here's 5 tips that I recommend. Sure, you can go in and freshen that up and republish it as a new thing. But if it's an old session that you're trying to post as a new session and you're just recycling something that is 10 years old, in that sense, I wouldn't usually recommend that. I'd usually look at, hey, let's focus on what you're shooting now. So it really does depend on the content. If you have an old blog post that's on an old platform that you're bringing over, it's good to reskin it and bring it over that way. But again, you have to look at it case by case and see what the content of it is.
Yeah, what's worth saving at the end of the day? And you can always put up there, like, updated recently at the beginning of the article. That way they know it's an existing article, but it's maybe been modified. Maybe you updated with new pictures or new information.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few. We've run into a few of those. With our blog on PhotoBiz, we've been doing this thing for years, and so sometimes there's something that changes in the system, or there's best practices that change, and rather than just taking that article and republishing it as something that's brand new, if we know that it's already performing with search and it's pulling traffic in, rather than taking that blog post down and dumping it, we'll just go in and amend it, and you'll see a message at the top of the article that says updated on January 2021, but the original publish date might be from something that happened in 2012.
Susie asks, how would you handle it when you service clients internationally with your fine arts photography in, say, Canada, US, UK, and Europe, as far as indicating your location and not writing too much content?
Yeah, something like that is where your Google Search Console is really going to help you out, because you can see how your site's performing. Moz is going to be your friend on that as well, because you can look at the relevant key terms that you're trying to be found for, and you go from there. Again, that's something where when you're figuring out how to target stuff for search, you want to make sure that you're using all the tools you can to make sure that you're actually seeing the data that will tell you, hey, this is what I need to really go after.
Vicky asks, I have some session guide magazines that I've created that are hosted on another site.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all have any future plans to host such things as magazines?
I think it depends on the format. I know, like, right now that you can host PDFs, so I think it just depends on what you're doing. One thing I would say, though, is that if those are hosted third party and you're looking to kind of use those for lead gen, you can put a pop-up on your site. I think we covered that in the last class, where you can put a pop-up on the site, capture an email address, and then it'll send it out to them or redirect them to download it. So yeah, there's a couple options you have with that. I would definitely encourage you to look in the file section. It'll give you a rundown of all the files that are supported for uploads that you can link onto your website.
And if you're using one of these like digital magazine publishers, some of them have embed codes that you can actually just copy the code and place on the page itself if you want to as well, and then you'll still get their data and analytics on that side, but at least it'll be hosted on your site if you want it there. Alan had a question, when was the Pinterest blog posted? I'll go ahead and I'll send it to you. He said he couldn't find it earlier, but it was most likely a couple years ago, but we want to make sure that it's relevant to you, so I'll put that in the links later. So your Pinterest pins lead to your blog is another question.
Yeah, you can link your Pinterest to any page in your website. So the thought behind using those pins is that the graphic that you put up, that you upload to your Pinterest, links back to the page that you want to target and direct people into, whether that's a blog post, whether that's a page that's talking about your sessions, if it's a landing page that you've created for a special promotion that you're running. You can link back to whatever page you want on your website. Just the thought behind it is that that's going to pull in traffic, and it's going to direct people specifically to the page that you want them to land on.
Susan asks, is your business name good content for an H1 tag?
Yes, you can put it in there. The thing is that the H1 tag is going to be, something that Google looks at that page. So I would say, for maybe your about page would be where you'd want to put that. I would focus more on having your business name and your title tag on each page. That's going to be a lot more effective for you in terms of Google when it crawls your site and seeing what that page is about. The H1 tag is really focused on the content of the actual page itself.
Leonard asks, does rebranding your site affect your ranking? And if so, how?
Yes, it does. If you rebrand your business and you change your domain name, Google's going to look at it as a brand new thing. That's where, it gets a little tricky in that when you rebrand, if you have let's say you've had a domain name that's been around for 10 years, and all of a sudden you decide, you know what, I'm not going to go with this .com anymore. I'm going to completely change the name of my business. When you switch all that over, Google's going to look at it as a new website and as a new business. You basically start from zero in terms of building up your rank.
Susan says, I'm not a photographer. I sell small handcrafted animals. What would be a good H1 tag for the types of items that I do?
I think with that, you want to talk about your services. It doesn't necessarily have to be about photography. You want to talk about the services, and I'm not particularly an expert on the industry that you're in, but talk about, for example, you could say creating handcrafted animals in Cleveland, Ohio. Just something like that to talk about the services and what you do and where you serve and who you serve.
Yeah, I think, Susan, I know who you are. So I think the one thing I would do is just recommend talking about the words crafting and stuff like that. It gives it a rich quality to it. So, crafting tiny animals in the location that you're at, and that maybe you service or sell internationally. Something like that in that text and that context will go a long way. And then you can go into the details more about it through just regular text. Charles asks, so if I update the text on the visible side of the web page, does that affect my SEO?
Yes, that does. Google, they're going to first read the H1 tags on the page, but they're still going to crawl the entire page. So you want to make sure that all the content is relevant to that particular service or what that page is about.
When should they actually touch like the sitemap button to like republish, if they make any changes to the back end of the SEO or with the visible side as well?
All of it. Anytime that you make changes to the site, and this doesn't necessarily mean publish a new blog article, but if you make changes to your actual website, hit that under the tracking section in your PhotoBiz 8 control panel. You'll see that there's a sitemap button there, and you can republish that. Just go in one click, and it'll automatically republish that. And if you're using Google Search Console, what that will do is that will update that sitemap, and then Google, when it crawls your sitemap, will get the latest version of the site. So that makes it easy for you. Now, the other side of that, the reason I say you don't have to worry about republishing the sitemap if you do a blog is that the RSS feed feeds out to that automatically. So if you go up to the tracking section here, you'll see that there's a published sitemap. It'll also show you the last time you published it. So you can go in and hit that publish button, and that'll make sure that Google's crawling the most recent portion and recent version of your website.
Can you pin the link that was embedded in the slideshow on your Pinterest guide location? Can you pin the link that was embedded in the slideshow Pinterest guide?
That's our Pinterest guide. Yeah, we can do that for you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. You're talking about pins already, so I'm thinking. Can we link to it? Yeah, we'll give you the link in a little bit. My work is displayed in various shops around town. How can I list them? They are not my physical address. So I guess like when you're trying to say my products are available in so and so, maybe in this location.
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah, for something like that, I would put it. Have a page on your site that talks about where your works are available. And specific locations. The other thing that you could do there as well is if your works are being displayed in those various shops, two things you want to do. If the shop owner has a website, ask for a link back to your site. Just ask them to have a page that says, hey, this photographer's work is featured in my store. And the other side of that too is that if they're displaying your work and you have a credit to it, make sure that it shows in that credit a link to your website. Give people your website address on there, because that's going to be something where, hey, people want to learn more. They can go to your website and see everything that you got.
Mary, I might have to come back to your question. She was asking, can you screen tag and show you doing it? That's more of a walkthrough, so I might have to show that later in a different session for support maybe. So come back for that later. Larry asks, how long should a video be that you post online? And I can talk a little bit about that. I've experienced a lot of video content over the years. It looks like for Facebook, they want something at least 3 minutes or longer these days. The longer the content, the more engagement they're looking at, because that's what they're really looking for. It used to be about how many views you used to have, but YouTube and all these other platforms now are focused on engagement. So, we've been running this video for, almost an hour now, and this is what they're looking at. They're looking at, okay, this content is engaging, how many people are watching it. This is how they collect demographic information, where you're located at, and stuff like that. If you're looking at YouTube, of course, any type of length is good. You've seen videos as short as a minute or less, all the way up to hours. At the end of the day, what they're looking for too is that audience retention qualities and the engagement qualities of it all. So it's really up to you on how long you want your videos, but the rule of thumb lately has been about 3 minutes. And that's one reason why you'll see on YouTube, before a video starts these days, it feels like they talk for about 10 minutes before they actually get to the content that they're actually talking about, that you're actually interested in. It's just why you see it, and you see a lot of content getting longer and longer as time goes on. So if you have anything engaging, obviously go longer, but you don't have to go crazy long. Just be engaging at the end of the day. And for something like Instagram, short and sweet. A minute at most is what they give you on straight up just the posted timeline. But that's what IGTV is for longer form. But think about that for a live aspect, or at least something more vertical, because anything you put in there horizontal is not going to look good. Okay. Should I have only one board on my Pinterest account? I currently use my account for mood boards.
I don't think it's good to have multiple boards if you have different services that you offer, or different ideas that you're trying to bring across. So the mood board, if you have like things that are just inspiring that you have from other artists or other photographers that you like, that's fine to have, but the main thing that we want to make sure that you have is original pins. So if you have maternity, newborn, family photography, it's okay to create different boards for that, and then put those pins in those particular boards. Just make sure that you're linking back to the relevant page to the specific service that you have for that pin.
Do the keywords on the visible page have to match the keywords that are in the SEO metadata page? Can I have keywords on the metadata page that aren't visible?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You just want to make sure that any keywords that you have on the front end or in the metadata of the site are relevant to the content of the page. If you start getting into having, keywords that are talking about something completely different. For example, if you have a page on your site that talks about your portrait photography services, and everything on the front end of the site talks about that type of session with you, but then in your keywords you've got something that references wedding photography. That's not going to help you at all. So you just want to make sure that anything that you have metadata related in the back end is relevant specifically to your services and to that page in particular.
Okay, it looks like we have maybe one more question, and it's from Charles again. He is, in regards of magazine, how can I link a PDF magazine that I have done to my headshots that I have on my PC to my website?
You should be able to upload that right to the file section on the site. So that's something that once it's uploaded in your file section, it'll generate a link for you that you can use anywhere you want.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through it real quick. You go to your files, and then in the top menu you'll see clipboard, documents. You want to click on documents, and then you can upload. You can see all the options you have, up to about 4 megabytes without the original files enabled. You can upload that, and you can also compress PDFs if they seem to come in too big. There's compressors out there online that can compress files down really, really easily. So just look for them, and then they'll be stored in the back here. So when you have it stored that way, you can then go to your website page, and we have this image right now that we'll link to. I'll go to the builder. I'll just put a button for now to make it simple. So you can put this like underneath your image, click here, add what your button is. We can say download PDF. You can set it to file, and then select the file that you want it to connect to, and then hit save changes, and when that's done, you'll see that it's available there, and then this is going to take us straight to that file that we have. It's just an image file for now, but you'll see it'll load it up right there. So you can see that it popped right up. So you can do that with PDFs, any type of file type that we can store on the back end. So if it's a document or anything like that, you can be able to see it. And I think that pretty much wraps us up. Our next class starts at 1:45. That'll be going into website review. So that's a great time for you guys to share your website review, the websites you want us to review. I want to thank John and Ellington for joining us today to talk about SEO. If you guys want to have these professionals look at your website, go through it and actually optimize it for you, check out our SEOgo.photobiz.com website. It's a service that's available to you that you can take advantage of, and they'll actually go through, optimize your web pages, and then also have an analytical and reporting that can go on monthly. And once you start seeing results, you can always unsubscribe when you want to. But if you start to see it wane a little bit, you can resubscribe. That's the benefit about having that. You can always come back to us, and our experts are there for you. Some other things that we have going on, you can save 50% right now if you're brand new to PhotoBiz on your first year by using promo code IUSA21. Just put it in the checkout. You'll be able to save 50%. It's a great, incredible deal that we have going on right now. Take advantage of it and let others know about it. You get referral credit when that happens too. So take advantage of this and let others know. We want to thank Ellington and John for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, everybody. Thanks for spending a little bit of time on your Tuesday. Everybody stay safe out there and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.
See you next session.